Hi, this is Sue for Parkinson Me, My Journey with Parkinson's. Today is World Parkinson's Day. Now, I was scrolling through Facebook and doing my word games and things that I do for my brain every morning, and this notification, if you like, came up of World Parkinson's Day, which is today, and some sort of short comments about what Parkinson's was and what it wasn't for them. And one of the things that they said was about the hidden things that are affected by Parkinson's that people don't realise. And there's very many of them. Like my husband has said to me that my Parkinson's is not that noticeable at the moment. He is starting to notice some of the symptoms, like the hesitant speech, the petering out at the end of my speech, and memory issues and things like that. But they're not things that people would necessarily realise that are difficult for me. One of the things I said to him recently, and I don't think he fully realised it till recently, was my hesitation when using escalators. Now, I've always found them a bit of a challenge, and maybe that was the Parkies lurking in my brain for a while, and it seems to have been so for a while, but not to the point where I can't use an escalator. So when I'm getting on an escalator these days, I do hesitate more, and it takes me a little while to summon the courage, if you like, to get on. And especially if it's going down, because it just feels more unsafe. I often say to my husband when we're about to get onto an escalator together, can you go in front of me? Then if I fall, I've got something soft to land on. I'm not sure he appreciated that. There is a bit of a lack of confidence, a little voice in my head saying, is this safe? Is this okay to do, or should you be taking the lift? Some days I might think to myself, no, I'm not up to it today. I'll take the lift today. And so I will. Or I might take the lift going down because I don't like the downward escalator so much, and use the escalator on the way up. So just things that I'm aware of that others probably wouldn't be. Lately I have done a few things that people have said are very kind. Now I'd like to think that I'm a kind person anyway. I do try to be, to think of others and not just of myself. One of the things was there was a girl who needed some things for swimming, like a swim cap, which I hate, and flippers were two of the things that she needed for swimming in the mornings. And I gave them to her, and she wanted to give me something for them. And I said, no, I don't want anything, I don't need anything. And I gifted them to her quite happily. And I was saying to a friend, it's not that I am rich, not by any means, not by any stretch of the imagination am I a rich person. But once money has been spent, it loses its importance. I've had my use out of those things. I no longer need them. They would be in a cupboard or a garage somewhere, not being used. And where's the value in that? There is no value in that. I've got some bikes that I bought for my grandchildren. The two older girls never really got into riding bikes with me. The youngest one loved it. So I bought them two bikes, the big girls, which have hardly been used. And they've been sitting around the side of my house, around the side of my garage, for probably a couple of years now, unused. Now, I can't even recall how much I paid for them. And to me it doesn't matter. I would rather give those bikes to somebody who otherwise could not afford one than sell them, because I've paid the money. My youngest granddaughter in particular has got lots of fun out of her bike when she's been staying with us, and now it's time for another child to have fun with it. So yeah, I don't feel the need to sell it. Sure, it might be some money in my pocket, which is always welcome, but my reward, if you like, rather than money, is making someone happy, giving somebody something they need that they otherwise wouldn't have. I've been in a situation where I really have been hard up for money when I've been raising my children on their own from time to time. The basic things are hard enough, but trying to buy a bike for a kiddie that would dearly like one would be impossible at times. So if I can pass on something and make somebody else happy with the gift, then that's what I choose to do. I had some friends come and visit me yesterday. And one of them has a friend who's very unwell in hospital, and I make crocheted rugs, and I make them really colourful, not the old-fashioned ones that sort of seem to be brown, though there are elements of brownness in some of them. But I make sure that I put in something that is a pop of colour, because out of necessity, hospital or rest home rooms are bland, because they have varying people with various tastes that go into them, and so they need to be reasonably neutral, but it makes them very drab, very soulless sort of rooms until somebody comes along and adds some colour and some personality to it. So I had this lady, my friend, come round to play a game and have a cuppa with me with another friend, and I said to her, your friend that's been unwell in hospital, is she still with us? She said, yes, she is. I'm seeing her tomorrow. And I said, no, I don't know if I told you, but I make these rugs that I give to the rest homes for people to have on their knees. They're just big enough to cover the knee and not get in the way of wheels if they're in a wheelchair. And it's just a little bit of warmth and a little bit of colour in their lives. And so I showed her this bright pink and purple one, and she goes, oh, that's gorgeous. She would love it. So I gave it to her, and she said, are you sure? And I said, look, I make them to give away. And, through the kindness of people in my community, I've been gifted a whole lot of wool, so I don't need or want to sell them. I would never sell them. And I buy a little bit of wool from time to time. I'm sure I do, to add a bit more colour. But I just thought that her friend would like it, and I said, it'll brighten her room. And they said that their friend's eyesight's not so good anymore, so being bright, she'll be able to see it. So I made her happy, and hopefully it'll make her friend happy. So, it's just sort of a random act of kindness that I think I might be a kinder person these days. I've given some clothes away that I no longer needed for work, because I don't work anymore and don't have occasion to wear them. So I gave them to another friend from swimming whose daughter needed some more professional clothing and, again, couldn't really afford it. So for me, it feels good to be kind. And it's nice for people to tell me I'm kind, but I don't do it for the praise. I do it because I know how it feels to receive a kindness, and I want to give that back to those in my world that I come across that could benefit from that kindness. There's a statement that I read as well of a person saying to Parkinson's, you're part of my life, you're not all of me. And that's how I feel. Parkinson's is a part of my life. I mostly keep it in the shadows. I acknowledge it through the blog that I write and through this podcast, but it does not overwhelm my life. It does not take over my life. It is not what all of my life is about. And it's about being aware and conscious of my limitations. Like when we're going to the UK this year in a few weeks' time, I know what I should and shouldn't do, or can or can't do, because I don't like that word should. I know what is unwise for me to do. I know what I can do and how I can do it. And I'm very focused on keeping myself safe, as is my husband. And I will achieve some walks in the UK with the aid of some walking poles. But at some point I won't be able to do that. But at the moment I can, if I'm cautious and I'm aware and I concentrate and I focus and basically do as I'm told. If my husband says, I don't think you should be doing that, but do my best to do the best that I can to get the most out of the holiday that I can. And, I have issues with my back still being in recovery, and it may always be a little bit tweaky, but the worst thing that I can do is to constantly just sit around and do nothing, because that will be giving in, and that will not have a good outcome for me and my back and my body in general. So World Parkinson's Day, I'm not going to say happy World Parkinson's Day. Nobody really is that happy to have Parkinson's, but it has given me a higher sense of purpose, that I want to be a kind person. I want to help people. Maybe it's the years of social work training and working as a social worker for over 20 years. But I think it's a natural part of myself and my being that I like to do kind things for people and repay the kindnesses that I have had in my life. I have had lots of negative events in my life, and they were to be endured and got through. But in doing so, it has given me resilience to cope with what life throws at me that's not exactly of my choosing and not exactly welcomed. But I can live a good life with Parkinson's, and I do live a good life with Parkinson's. But, as things change, as I need more support, I will seek out some help and assistance and support. I will face up to what I need to face up to, but I will make sure that I can continue doing, for the most part, the things that I can do and celebrating them, and try not to focus too much on what's difficult for me. So it's World Parkinson's Day. I hope for you Parkinson's is not your everything, and that you can acknowledge the existence of this thing called Parkinson's, but not make it all that your life is about. So this has been Sue for Parkies and Me, my journey with Parkinson's. Kia kaha, be brave, be strong, be you.